No, that's when I decided, like, these are my people. This is where I want to be, man. This is where I think I want to exist.
This is Champagne is Also a Band podcast. One songwriter, one song. I'm Sven, your host for a journey into the music of Champaign-Urbana. Recorded in the Blue Box studio with a songwriter from the Champaign-Urbana music scene, past or present. Champagne is Also a Band podcast is proud to be a part of the Champagne Showers podcast network. Welcome to Champagne is Also a Band podcast. Today, I have Scott Kimble and Don King, both from Terminus Victor, or TVIC, as those that are in the know like to say. You may know Scott from such bands as Little Black Spiders, The Falbonauts, Wicked Walls, and Hush Tower. And then also Don, who was in episode 81. You may remember him from such bands as Hush Tower, Social Imaginary, and Bristle. Scott and Don both worked together with Steve Lamos of American Football to perform a memorable Slint cover set in 2004. So Scott and Don, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Today, we're going to be listening to the song This Isn't Real off of the November 2023 release of Everending. So without further ado, let's listen to the song.
Every once in a while
Welcome back. So, of course, my first and favorite question to always ask is, what came first? Was it the music or was it the lyrics?
It's always the music. As a matter of fact, usually I write a song and then I'll put lyrics to it last in the hardest way possible because I get used to vowel sounds that I come up with. Like I have this good jargon sort of like vocal thing that I do. It sounds like I'm kind of saying something, but I'm not. But I get used to those vowel sounds and where I want them, and then I have to actually come up with words around that. And so that's why I have a hard time with lyrics. And this time around, I usually write them as I write the song, but this time around I got on such a roll with writing music that I just kept going, and then I had the whole record ready with no lyrics. It was really stressful. I mean, I had some lyrics. I mean, it's not like I was just blah, blah, blah. I mean, I had some, but there was nothing that was like filling in the gaps yet. And so it took me a while. It's always music first for me. It's not to say that it'll always be the way. I always like to explore and think outside of my box and write music in different ways. Some songs come from piano. Maybe I'll start from lyrics at some point in time. I mean, you just never know. You just kind of have to roll with what you feel like doing at the time, you know?
I'm guessing it's that bass riff that you came up with. That first bass riff that we hear at the very beginning is probably what you were. Do you ever hear it in your head? Are you maybe sitting in front of the TV? Sorry, just as an example, like sitting in front of the TV and just kind of playing on the bass and something kind of comes out, or I'm just curious about your process on that.
I never have the TV on when I'm writing. I mean, that's just too much of a distraction for me. I usually sit on the couch with my bass not plugged in, and I just play, and I come up with a riff that I really like. The hardest part after that is where am I going to go from there? But once I figure that out, I figure out maybe there might be another new section in there to kind of break it down or whatever. Then I put my instrument down, and I go for a walk, and I just listen to it in my head. I put the structure together in my head. I never play that out. I always come up with the ideas first, then put my instrument down, walk around the neighborhood, and get it in my head. And then I'll start having ideas in my head for Don, and then I'll flesh them out on keyboard usually. And then I'll 8-track it, send it to the guys, and then that's just the beginning. It's just rough draft shit, you know? Then when we all get together and flesh out the song, Don has to Donify the parts that I came up with, and Terry needs to be Terry. Starts as my song, but at the end, it's our song by the time we're done with it. I really like the process. It's really fun. I mean, it's kind of stressful for me because when I get in that zone, man, it's hard to get out of. And I love it and hate it at the same time sometimes. Right. I don't know.
Is there any way that you would ever, this is completely, well, I don't know, theoretical, I guess you could say. Is there any way that you would ever share those 8 tracks that you came up with as the demos for what eventually turned into the songs that we hear and know today? Because I'd be curious just to hear what they would sound like, and I think most people would be the Donify and then also having Terry, everybody adding their parts. I'm sure that it'd be so different. I'm just, as like a thought experiment, it'd be interesting to hear those two and put them next to each other.
I don't know if I would actually like release anything, but like it would be fun to listen to. I mean, they kind of sound similar. I mean, not production wise by any means, but like some of the stuff that I play, because I played everything. I played drums, bass, guitar, the stuff that I could. I'm not that great of a guitar player, but I'm pretty good at keyboards and piano and stuff. So sometimes I'll write whatever is in my head, what I hear. Once I'm really, really thinking about the song in my head, then I'll start hearing parts on top of that. And I'll think, okay, this is Don's part. I'll just like play it on keyboard, and then I'll actually like record it as keyboard and add like a distortion pedal to my keyboard and like, you know, just like make it sound kind of cool, you know, like, or I mean, something that Don might play, you know, just to get him in the ballpark, basically.
I think a lot of people would be interested, maybe not pay money for it, but you know what I mean, would be interested to hear that transition between the two. But that was just, as I said, it's a thought experiment for sure.
I know there's like the song When Now It's Too Late, which is the third song on the record. I came up with a guitar part for Don at the end, in the like the outro. It kind of had this like the Cure's like and it sounded really cool. But then when Don came up with his part at the end of that, I was like, no, we're doing that.
Right.
His is way better than what I came up with. So I'm very, very cognizant of that. Like, it's not like my way or the highway or anything. I'm just trying to like, okay, let's write the song. All right. And then everyone pulls in their parts, pulls in their personalities. Because, you know, like in movies, like, or like in film, like character development is really important. I feel the same way in music, where it's not just writing the music, but everyone has to have their own space and bring in their own personality to really make a band have an identity.
If you didn't do that, it might as well just be you and session players, right?
Yeah, and I would hate that.
You know?
I would hate that. I like true person. Don's, I've known him for years. The reason I'm not a good guitar player is because I haven't had to be. Yeah, he's one of the greats, I think.
So when you started adding the lyrics, you had already kind of formed all the parts, and Don and Terry had both pulled in their parts as well, right? So you already had kind of an emotional context. I'm curious, so once Terry and Don have added their parts, have you ever ended up changing your bass part in order to, like...
I did for one song, Dead and Alive, which is the first track on the second side. When I wrote that one, and oh God, I was like, when I tracked that, I was like, this song is not working, man. It's just like, I liked what I had in my head, and it was fine, but I just couldn't figure out, like, it just wasn't working. I finally figured out what I was playing on the bass was what he should have been playing on the guitar. Then we got together, and I said, here's this part. I don't think I actually really tracked it. Once he came over, and I said, here's this part. Can you help me with this? Because, like, I think this might be the guitar part. He took that over, and he came up with a brilliant part over it. It's just beautiful. And then I changed my bass part under him. That has happened. There's always weird things that happen with every song. I mean, every song has its own life. It has its own, like, I don't know. It's just like every song has its own problems, you know. I mean, and you just got to figure out how to make it work. I mean, I've had 2 or 3, maybe 4 songs where you write them in like 5 minutes and it's over. And there's some songs that like take forever.
Sure.
Like there's still some songs that I'm still trying to work out years. So I have had to change my bass part because he came up with such a brilliant part on Dead and Alive. I was like, he made that song. Don was the one who actually made that song work, and then I changed my bass part and I like it a lot better. It's just natural runs and play a lot of chords and fifths and things like that. I do a lot more runs on this record and I like them a lot. It's really kind of a change of pace for me, although it's really hard to sing and play those runs at the same time. Sometimes every once in a while it's kind of hard.
If we're going to jump back to the song This Isn't Real, what was the initial concept that popped into your head with the song This Isn't Real, lyrics-wise?
My mental health. Basically, I'm a scenarioist. I come up with these things in my head, and then I start to believe in them. I have to tell myself, these things aren't real, dude. That was the initial inspiration. I don't know if you can really get that out of the lyrics. All my lyrics they're more visceral than anything. They do mean something, but sometimes every stanza means a little something different than the other. Like, I do a lot of brainstorming when I write lyrics, and I just put together lines, and then I put them together, and then I know what they all are supposed to mean, but then I have to make them work together in some way, shape, or fashion. And I know that sounds really confusing, but it is a confusing process too for me. So
I guess you could say the sections, the different parts of the verse, so that there's like, in the way that the verses are broken up, you have the verse 1 and a verse 2, and then you have the chorus. There's this 3-line section. There's 2 of those for each, and I like the way that they kind of play against each other. Each time you start with the everyone's or everyone, it's almost as if it's telling a different perspective or different story about kind of the same thing, like a similar experience, but about a different person. That's what my interpretation.
And it is supposed to be kind of like that effect. It's supposed to be kind of like that. Yeah, the lyrics are really hard for me to talk about because it comes from everywhere. Like, basically, you're right. When I wrote it, though, I was really coming from my own point of view on things that I realized that, like, hey, man, stop thinking about that. You're just making that up. Because I have a really active imagination. It's crazy. But after I finished it and I took a step back and really just read them, I had the same idea that you just said, Where it's like, it sounds like it could be like, if it was a video of some sort, it would be like every verse would be like a different person dealing with their own thing, and then the next verse would be a different person. That wasn't intentional. I think that just happened.
I'm a firm believer in the best things in, well, at least
happy accidents.
In most of my songs, I think the things are ones that I didn't mean to do, and I'm just like, wait, whoa, what was that? What did you just do?
Right.
And then my fingers answer back, I don't know. The structure is simple. And I think that I did get a sense that this was personal for you, but I also feel like you had, I don't know if this is just like a normal writing style, in order to make it a little bit more universal, instead of it being a close-up in the camera, it's kind of, you pull it back a little bit more so that you get the whole context, so that everyone can kind of be pulled into the story too. And I feel like you used the chorus, to kind of like, well, this is actually what the problem is. It's like you have scenarios, but it's never really defined exactly what the problem is. I think that works really well as this device that, I mean, that's what a chorus is to do, is to kind of sum up what we're all talking about, right?
Right.
So, guess I don't know exactly what my point was on that, but I'm kind of summing up what I've kind of gleaned from it. I did have this one thought. I didn't always interpret each of these, I guess, the sections of 3, where it's the every once in a while and then the 2 lines of explaining. I didn't see them all as like a negative thing, the interpretation. So like the one that stuck in my mind is probably the last section of the verse, where it says, every once in a while you swallow your time with nothing that fills you. And in some ways I'm like, sometimes I really enjoy those moments where I get fulfilled by having nothing happen, where it's just like, time passes, and I may be interpreting this differently, but to me, I was just like, okay, I like it when I can just pass the time and not know what happened.
And that's very interesting. I was going to mention this earlier, is like, when I listen to music, I'm not necessarily thinking about what the writer was actually trying to write, what it meant to that writer. I'm actually thinking about it as a listener. It's like, what does this mean to me? And this happens all the time. I think the lyrics are more important when they translate to the listener, because I mean, the way you just described those lyrics, you actually pulled your own context. That's the most important thing, like, that's why I have a hard time like explaining lyrics, because I don't want to like ruin the story for them. If the song means something to the listener, those lyrics will mean something to their life. It doesn't have to be about mine. So that's why it's really hard for me to explain. Even though I haven't really been trying to explain lyrics, I don't think so much, but like, it's up to the listener. That's why we put it out there, for people to listen to it and people to dig it, man, and let it kind of like absorb into their own lives, that's really important stuff.
And one of the things I do enjoy a lot about music is that, well, music and lyrics together, you can have multiple interpretations, like swimming in your mind.
Yeah.
Simultaneously, I can be like, I feel this way about it. I also feel this way about it. It's very cool that you can pack in something very, very complicated in, 5 minutes, right? Like, you could pack in whole worlds in 5 minutes. That's something that's really amazing. One of the things that I thought was really interesting, because of course with the history of TVIC, and we'll get into this in the second section, but TVIC hasn't always been 3 human members. It was 2 human members and she, the machine. I don't know if she prefers to be called a machine, but the drum. I think it's interesting that one of the things that has kind of held in TVIC's music, Terry has been able to kind of, I get that same drum machine feeling, like somehow it kind of comes through, but there's some of these great fills that happen in here that are, very human, but then there's other parts where it's just has this very precise feeling to bring both, Scott and Don, you both together to play. It becomes this weird anchor, and I guess maybe that's exactly what a drummer is supposed to do, but it's something that I think has given TVIC a certain unique sound. But anyway, that was more of an observation and not really a question, so I apologize. But I'm just curious, because we haven't really heard from Don that much, like the integration of your, I guess, interludes, your solos. I know you can really rip it. I've heard you really rip it, and by rip it I mean just like,
you have no idea.
You can nail. I mean, you could nail incredible solos, that kind of thing. You could be in the forefront, and I think you do a very good job of restraint. I don't know if restraint is the right word, but in this song, I feel like your guitar part is like this restraint. You have the two notes back and forth, right, and they're kind of like trying to struggle through, kind of force their way through. You don't really come center stage in this song, which I think is a nice effect in this overall part of It Isn't Real. Is like mentally we're all kind of trying to kind of restrain ourselves, but also kind of like, I want to get out. Is that based on the piano or the keyboard part, or was that another?
Like for this song, all the parts came from Scott, and it really became my job at that point to, first of all, let me take a step back and say a big philosophy maybe, or a big part of what T-Vic is doing is serving the song. Mm-hmm. That's a real big focus of this band.
Oh yeah.
That's really all of us together are very tight and united on that. That's like a very high priority. Technically, we have skills that, can rip or whatever, but we're not really that. I don't know. To me, it's not as an emotional of it. I don't know. You can't really put rules on it, but for this band, ripping is not appropriate. It's just not going to work. We don't really like it. We love what we're creating and playing with, the music that we.
But then there are times when it's okay to rip it.
Yeah, actually, we do. We
let it go up.
Yeah, like to the very end was an opportunity for me to do it. So yeah, I guess it's not a hard and fast rule, but at the same time, that serves the song for that song. But for this song, you're exactly right. I mean, the guitar was supposed to be not grabbing your attention, and really it's supposed to be more generating that feel that you get from it and supporting the whole concept and emotion and philosophy of the song and how it translates. If there was a solo, it would just be like too distracting and then blow the song apart.
I mean, there is a solo, but it's beautiful. It's just
not even I wouldn't call it a solo. I think it's more of a, I mean, you can call it a solo if you want, but I don't think it's a solo. I think it's more just a little bit of a melodic
interlude.
It's just a little bit of a, it's like it takes over it's more of a vocal. It's not real fancy. It's not like, I play it real careful, and you even guided me on that some, like, but this needs to be a real soft, careful part and floating, and atmospheric.
Yeah. We were very cognizant of, like, the feel. I'm a big feel person, by the way.
Yeah.
Just one of those people. I was really trying to keep focus with, like, the feel of that song, because once you get really in the weeds with that song, you could destroy it. If you don't keep it simple. So like a lot of the songs that I wrote, I was trying to make simplicity as profound as possible. Mm-hmm. I tried. I'm really happy with the record. I mean, so I think we had a success with that. We have some songs that are kind of like a lot of curveballs and stuff, but like I really like the simple stuff. It just seems to have a lot more impact in some way.
Yeah, and just to comment on the guitar a little bit more, like you mentioned the demo and the final version. Like you'd hear, it's funny because
I played it.
He's using a keyboard like through a distortion pedal, and you'd hear on the demo it's ratty. It's cool. It's his own little ratty. I don't know.
But it's pretty much the same thing that you're playing.
It's very similar, but that's where I was saying my job is like, to bring, particularly on this record, we really focused on like tone, and I invested a lot of time and energy into guitar tone and sounds, and I mean all the way through from my guitars all the way out through the whole chain. I redid everything. That also really contributed to the record and the sound and live too, of course.
And then that inspired me to kind of change my sound too, after he souped up his whole deal over there, and it sounded brilliant and beautiful, and I was just like, God damn it, Don, now I'm going to have to change my sound too.
Yeah.
And so, I love my sound now. Don't you think it's pretty good?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's good, yeah.
It amped up too. I mean, and that was how it kind of flowed. I dove in, and then Scott he said that exactly. He's like, your sound's so good, I got to do something about my stuff. he did most of the experimentation. I'm a little more technical member of the band, so I maybe gave him some ideas, but he developed it, you know.
Yeah.
And we're really happy with our tone on both ends, and Terry's always been really great sounding.
Yeah, he's
the get-go.
He's a total professional. He's totally pro.
I think it's interesting when you talked about him, like your feeling of going from drum machine to Terry.
Yeah.
Because actually just a couple days ago, I heard somebody comment about Terry and from his studio work that he's done at Matt Talbot's studio. We recorded with Matt Talbot over there at Earth Analog. I know Terry's done some other work over there, and so Matt knows. And the word was he's a machine. Yeah. He's so good. Like, he's so good, tight on tempo and feel.
His tempo.
I am serious. It's unreal.
He's a tempo drummer, which is what you want, right?
Right.
He's a good tempo. I mean, he could be a session drummer easily.
Yeah.
He's way cooler than that. He is so good at tempo. Like when we like track our stuff, you know how a lot of drummers would like a click track, which I always hate click tracks. He hates click tracks too. But all we had to do when we started the song, just play the click track, he'd get it, we'd go into it, dive right in, and then after a couple measures, he wanted it turned off.
Okay.
Because he already had it. He had the tempo. And he would keep that tempo like it was like clockwork. And he's so easy to work with. Like, he is like...
Yeah.
I've told many people this in my life. If I had my top 50 drummers, and Mitch Mitchell and Elvin Jones and, you know, Bonham, they're all in there. If I had my top 50, Terry would be in that list.
Oh, yeah.
He would be on that list for sure.
I keep thinking about how it's, you know, especially if you're recording that you may have it a little bit more controlled environment, but if you're out playing, it's kind of like you need one person in the band to be the anchor and be the person that's, you know, good at tempo that kind of holds you both back. Especially if you're going to play very emotionally, you can have a tendency to either like really amp it up or like really slow it down because you feel it feels different. But when you have somebody that plays tempo and understands how to anchor that, I think that's really important. It's pretty impressive. I've never seen a bad Terminus Victor show. I mean, it's just...
Oh, we've had them.
We've had a couple.
But
not
I mean,
really that many.
It's not even... And also, too, like, I'm actually being, like, it wasn't that bad.
It wasn't Terry.
It was totally me. It was my fault both times.
It's never Terry's fault. It's either Scott or me.
I'm going to jump into what I think is my favorite part of the song. I think it's actually the last three lines of the second verse. It's like, every once in a while, you live your own lie, believing you have to. There's this weird kind of meta moment that happens with that because it's like, well, if you're living it, is it really a lie? Is it a lie? But you're just doing it. It's kind of this thought experiment too, because it's like, well, are we ever really genuinely ourselves? And then when are we actually ourselves? Is it when we're completely alone, you know, that we're exactly ourselves? Then does that make it, every time we interact with the person, does that make it a lie? I don't know. So there's like these things that you know, as a thought, many multiverses that kind of jumped off of that, which I really enjoy when it doesn't necessarily answer itself very well.
And that was intentional. You live your own lie believing you have to. That's a thing, man. I mean, like, it's just being in a situation where you know it's not cool, but you just go with it anyway. And then eventually maybe you'll figure it out. But, like, that's a really personal lyric for me because I have my issues, you know, and I don't know how to deal with them sometimes. So I just go along with it until I have to deal with it. Man, it's like really personal. I'm not usually personal like this, but maybe I should be.
Don, what's your favorite part of this song?
Oh, wow. It's a journey. I don't know if there's a part. I love how the song flows and takes you on a journey. I mean, out into metaverse or whatever, right? And the power of it too, I guess. So, you know, I love the end where it's just powerful and huge ending, and that feels great, but that wouldn't be what it is without the beginning, so, or the whole flow of it. So I don't know if I can say there's a part I like, but I just love the whole song and the way it flows and moves and feels. And again, just like we've said, like we want to serve the song and make it the best it can be. And that's, this song is a great example of that. I mean, we're very happy, like Scott said, with the whole record, but this song is unique. Guitar wise, it is very unique. It's not standard what we're doing. And Scott really had the ideas, and I just followed his great leadership and put some fun, cool tones on it, and it became a great song. So that's part of it. Yeah.
For the listeners that may not know, this is also the first track on the album. So it's kind of the launch into Everending. So Scott, what do you think is your favorite part of the song?
Well, the whole song is really kind of like leading up to that part when we all come together with the distortion at that point in time. So I'm kind of teasing everybody. I'm laying down the tracks. I'm giving the verses and stuff like that. But when the song really makes its presence is when we all come together. This isn't real, and we kick it in. All that before is just building up to that moment. So that's the most important part. Once we get to that part, we're in like Flynn to the end.
Why did you pick this song to be the song you wanted to talk about today?
I didn't really want to pick it. There was other songs I'd rather do, but like, 'cause I like them all. You know what I mean? I wanted to talk about all of them. Obviously, we can't do that. But like at the same time, I didn't know what I was going to say about any of them. You know what I mean? I wanted to talk about all of them, but I didn't know what I was going to say about any of them. But there's some songs that are pretty important. She'll Be the One in Black, From Nothing, When You're Not Invited. It's the big one. All very personal, and it's not really important. I don't really think it's that important for me to like explain what these songs are about for me. But I think that whoever the listener is, they can take something from all this stuff. Because we all go through all this stuff. It's crazy, this world these days. I don't know. The only thing we can do to get out of it is write, play, get out of our heads for a second.
I think This Isn't Real is like, just from kind of pulling in, I don't know, maybe my view and other people's feedback. It's a pretty unique song. For some reason, it can catch you pretty easily, I think. Not that it's catchy, because we don't approach music like that at all. But I think it just happened to work out that way. Like, it just sticks in your mind. So I think that song can just kind of get in there pretty easily and be very memorable in a good way. Not in a way like some songs that get in my head. I'm like, I gotta listen to something else. I'm tired of this stupid thing in my head. But so yeah, I think it's a great choice from that perspective. I think it's got some unique qualities that are pretty original. That's what I like about the choice, I guess.
Champagne is Also a Band podcast is proud to support Jubilee Cafe. Jubilee Cafe is a free weekly meal program at Community United Church of Christ, 805 South 6th Street in Champaign, Illinois. Jubilee Cafe serves a home-cooked meal from 5 to 6:30 each Monday. Their mission is to feed hungry people by cooking healthy, delicious meals and by serving their guests restaurant-style with servers waiting on tables. Jubilee Cafe is open to anyone who cares to eat with them. Because food insecurity among students is so high, they serve students as well as others in and around the Champaign-Urbana community who struggle with hunger. Meals are free to all and will be served each Monday evening. Located in the accessible lower level of the building at 6th and Daniel Streets in Champaign. For more information on the meal or how to volunteer, go to the Jubilee Cafe CUCC Facebook page or email them at jubilee.cafe@community-ucc.org. That's jubilee.cafe@community-ucc.org. Welcome back. So, Scott, what is your favorite Champaign-Urbana venue, past or present?
Without a doubt, the Blind Pig. The past Blind Pig. Not the brewery, but so it's where the Cowboy Monkey is now. And it was established in 1991, pretty sure about that, by Chris Knight, who also owns the brewery. I am telling you, I studied music in college. You know, I was a theory comp major, but my education did not start until I started going to shows there at the Blind Pig. That's when my education started. Very fond memories of that, and I learned so much. That's when I was going to go to grad school. You know, as theory comp at U of I, but when I went to the Blind Pig and saw all kinds of bands, I can go on and on. You don't want me to go on and on, but like I think the first show would have been Ward, Hot Glue Gun, and 16 Tons, I think, and then it was Honcho and this band called Grover, who had a trumpet player. They were awesome. I love them so much too. No, that's when I decided, like, these are my people. This is where I want to be, man. This is where I think I want to exist. Yeah, so like Blind Pig, definitely. So Mike and Molly's would be, I mean, Jesus, like, seriously, like, Murph, it was so awesome that he opened up his place for us to, you know, do our thing. And those stairs were kind of... Oh, my God.
It's been a while since people have talked about doing the indoors at Mike and Molly's and having to take stuff up the stairs. That's when you're thankful you're a harmonica player, is what I like to say.
Yeah.
Or vocalist. You know, I'll take that.
Yeah, so Mike and Molly's, I want to mention Mike and Molly's for sure. The only reason I'm bringing up Blind Pig is that it was my first experience in this town. I moved here in like January 93. Went to Western Illinois University. I loved it there. It was great. The music department was really cool. I just wanted to move on and do some new stuff, and I wanted to play some music that I really wanted to play. So I actually moved to Don, you know. We started Hush Tower, and then I decided not to go to grad school, and it saved me a lot of money, too. For sure.
So, Don, what was your favorite Champaign-Urbana venue?
Yeah, Mike and Molly's is what comes to me first. I think it's because we played there so much. It was harder to get shows at the Pig. And of course, when you do, we were stoked and loved it. You know, it's not a better or worse thing necessarily, but we did a lot of shows at Mike and Molly's. That was just a great place to develop our music and do something we love doing. A lot of musicians hung out there and played there too. So it really was more like the musicians' home base, I think, to hang out or play shows, you know.
I think I did see T-Vic for the first time at Mike and Molly's on the outdoor stage or something. That had to have been, I think, because Mike and Molly's was one of the places that instilled a love for the local music scene, where I was just like, oh my gosh, they've got this going on all the time. It hit as very low threshold and like a kind of chill. It's chill, but like you can really get a great show there because it's out in the vines, and I don't know what it was, but you know, just because it was outdoor and you kind of felt by yourself and people could kind of spread out a little bit. Sometimes it'd be a little packed. I get that, but because, you know, you could go to see one band knowing what that band was, but then see two others, and then it's this weird propagation of like knowledge of bands, because you'd go to see, oh yeah, that one band that I saw with that other band that I knew about that I wanted to go see, but then I learned that this other one exists and it's so amazing, and so I went to see that band, and then with that band there were two other bands, and there was I don't know, it
feeds on itself. It's cool.
And I'd never really experienced that even when I had lived up in the Chicago area. You know, I feel like that's even harder to find a center, like a sense of a local music scene. I'm just curious, so like, when did Terminus Victor become a thing?
Hush Tower, that was an awesome start for Scott and I, because we were just stoked to like experiment and really figure ourselves out. I mean, looking back from where we're at now, we almost talked about this in the car. Like, you know, I wish I knew then what I know now, and blah, blah. It's always like that, but not really. I don't really have regrets. It's just more like looking back at the path. And so at that time, I can see it from a different vantage point of, we were literally trying to figure ourselves out. And so that band was actually very experimental. You know, maybe a little audacious even, because we didn't know. We didn't know ourselves. We didn't know what we were doing. We were just trying to just do it. And it was cool because we found a drummer that wanted to really experiment with us, and he fit the bill at the time. And when we started, 92?
93.
93.
Yep.
We did like 2 records worth of material. It was like 7 years. As we were getting to the end of that second record, kind of getting it mixed and finished, there was just a divergence in priorities. Like Scott and I really wanted to kind of keep launching in and playing a lot more and expanding our region of where we're playing, and our drummer didn't really have the same interest. When that happens in a band, it's fine. It's just what it is. Like if you don't have the same goals, then you're not going to be able to make it happen. So we just felt like Hush Tower ran its course, and we put out some interesting material. Some of it, it was a growing time.
It was a hard breakup. We love that drummer, Quint. We love him. So, but like the thing is that it just didn't work out. And that's pretty much why we started with the drum machine, like with T-Big, because we couldn't find a drummer. Also, I'm really picky with drummers, because I am a drummer. So like, I'm just like, no, I'll just be the drummer. I'll just program it. We have to keep going, man. No time to be wasting here.
Do you feel like Terminus Victor was like kind of a reiteration of it? So it was completely different.
Because like, here's the thing about Hush Tower. It was like, we were constantly coming up with ideas. Idea. But then we were trying to, how do we put these ideas together? There was no continuity. So by the time I was done with that Hush Tower thing, I was like, man, let's just write some songs. It's not like we're prog rock or something. You know what I mean? Like, we don't want to be that, Let's just write some dumb songs and just rip through it, pretty much mastering the Rebels. But we were proud of all that, too. But we had to do it on drum machine, and me and Dom worked on that together. We got better at the drum machine with Under Surveillance. That's really good.
I feel like I've asked this before, but I think I might have just done it in a conversation and not had it on the podcast. But it's funny is that you both, I don't know if you function as like this weird dichotomy of each other. Like you both have this.
Is it that obvious?
No, but I mean, it is. Like it defines.
You're right.
It defines even your stage presence and your stage show is like there's a very there's a very emotional but also very analytical. Like somehow you two blend so well and function so well in Terminus Victor that I don't know. I've always enjoyed that. Presence, stage presence, just the way that it works. So anyway,
thank you. Yeah,
but. Yeah, carry on.
We're complete opposites. And when we first started, we were really on the opposite ends of the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. But we connected through music, and we both had one thing that's the same is we both had passion for music.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And passion for this kind of music.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that was what tied the knot. But as far as a lot of other, I don't know, the way we think and do things and complete opposites, What's interesting is over the years, that's still true, but we've spent decades, working and growing and stretching each other too, that we've done some cross-pollination now also. So I wouldn't be the guitar player I am without him. And I know he says he wouldn't be the musician he is without me because of what we're both bringing to the table, what we did, what he's good at naturally and what I'm good at naturally was on the opposite ends. And then after all these years, it's been awesome because we're both way better off from working together and learning. And I don't know.
Well, I mean, you could definitely use that as an argument as music does bring people together, right?
That's right.
Absolutely.
It's exactly what it does. Exactly.
It's very powerful. We believe in music because of that.
Exactly.
Actually, at its core.
Okay, so I wasn't expecting it to start getting this emotional. So hold on. I think it is a really amazing moment.
That's the only thing that I can think of in my life that brings people together the way it does is music. There's just something about it. Nothing matters anymore. We're all celebrating together. I always like that feeling. That's it.
I love that you both get. I don't know. It's amazing that music does that.
Has this been okay?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
We're all okay? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're touching deep strings here.
You're touching, like Don said, you're right. You're touching deep strings. Me and Don talk about this shit on the road, and we have a lot of time to talk when we're on the road. So we talk a lot about deep shit. And so you're not going to embarrass us or just say what you want.
I feel like I could have asked the question as like, well, what do you think you could say? Oh, you owe your longevity, 20 plus years together as a band. What is the thing? But seeing you both, make that connection right there, it seems like it would be very silly for me to be like, well, what do you think but it's this mutual respect that you both have for each other and the fact that you connect fully through music. As I said, y'all answered it without me even trying. So I appreciate that. You've been around for a while and you've played in Champaign-Urbana near and far. And so I guess I like to always end this section with, what do you think makes a good music community?
There's a lot of parts. Because music is like about community, I think. It's cool because it's so powerful. Like we believe in the power of music, and it crosses any barrier, almost any barrier you can name in this world. It crosses it. So
every barrier. I
mean, and that's expanded to the universe, honestly. I mean, that'd probably be the best way to try to communicate with some aliens. You know what I mean? To start.
I mean, that
would be my recommendation?
Isn't that what they did on the gold record?
I think you're right.
Yeah, you're right.
But let's pare it down to just this community, right? That's too much. So it's cool because it's like it's the place where people, learn to be themselves. We don't constantly. I don't think that ever goes away. We get a chance to develop an artistic expression that is coming from an authentic expression of ourselves, and that's a very vulnerable thing to do. It's going to make me cry. Like,
I know.
It's awesome.
Me too. Actually.
Because it's passion, right? You're putting yourself out there.
It's like a minor miracle that anyone can write music at all. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And then you put yourself in front of other people and you say, here I am. It takes some boldness. I mean, some people have to overcome anxiety. Some squares have to kind of get a clue what's going on, but, do it anyway. I mean, it's just, everybody's welcome, though. That's what I love about, I don't know, scene isn't the best name for it, but whatever.
The community,
music community is scene.
Community is way better.
Yeah, scene maybe sounds like we're trying to sound cool.
Well, no,
sure.
We're not.
Scene would be like
we're
a
not
90s
cool.
term.
We're just, it's a community and it's awesome because artists get out there and they support each other and they inspire each other. And underneath all of that, which I always love to shout out to the venues, like, these people who are bold enough and brave enough to put their money and their livelihood out there and let us come in there and make a bunch of noise, I really can't thank those people enough. I've even thought about it. I should write a letter to every one of these menu owners and say, thank you. I really appreciate what you've done here. Right. And I know you deal with a lot of shit, to allow this to even happen. So, I mean, that's a part of it too. Yeah. If they weren't there, we'd probably, we would do it in basements, but then I would thank those people too, like for letting us come into your house and maybe tear it up a little bit and have a good time and let people be themselves.
Yeah.
It's so important the way I see it now, and it's so valuable. And that's why we're doing this. We're not making money, obviously, right? I mean, we're doing this because we're passionate about it, and we feel like we're living our best lives. I mean, there's other things that are great in life, don't get me wrong, but this is a biggie for us too. So to me, that's So did I answer your question? Or
oh yeah, absolutely. Well, and now it's like it's raised many questions for me as well. It's like, well, maybe not questions, but maybe me making a quick little statement of like, that's why it almost seems, because of the value of a good music community, it's also like becomes even more and more important that our venues are safe and welcoming and a place where people can feel like can be themselves, right?
Exactly.
And so
yes.
So
please.
It's so important that we have something that's just not a gatekeeping kind of bullshit kind of space. It needs to be something where it's like all people can come together and like enjoy good music, right?
What I love about it too is it's like Scott kind of touched on it about this isn't real, like what the song means, and like, you know, it's that struggle with our life or what is this, you know? I mean, we don't know everything. We don't. And the cool thing about music is that's a place where you can kind of come in and try to let some of that out, that it's almost like a safe place to protest or whatever. That's not the only expression of music, but you know what I mean? It's like a place where that stuff can get thrown out there in a medium that when you say something that might really challenge somebody else, that they can actually kind of take it in rather than just immediately shut it down. That's just one aspect of the power of music we're talking about, in addition to what we talked about, pulling people together and stuff. So to me, that's super important. There's a lot of rage coming out of us, and not just rage, but you know, that's a strong emotion, and that's a great way to get it out.
It's a loving rage, pretty much, you know.
But you get what I'm saying. I mean, this is how deep this goes, right, for us and you. I'm sure I can hear it from you. And we love what's going on with the local. There's so many good musicians, and we become good friends because of music and inspire each other. And you know, it's deeper than just music. It's not just the world shit or the America shit going on. It's like, it's also all the internal stuff. It's everything can be dealt with music. It gives us a way to communicate thoughts about it, or protest about it, or love it or hate it, or anything, or internal stuff, you know, internal struggle. I don't know. It's super important.
Well, and you know, one of the things that I think is interesting about music is you can have, I mean this in the most loving way, you can have the stupidest subject for a song, and it can be escapist. It can be something that lets you not think about how shitty things are for just a little bit.
That's,
you know?
there too.
You know, and I think it just does this amazing thing. I mean, there's a reason that there's music therapy, right? Like there's no doubt about it.
Because we don't have answers often, but we have a lot of emotion to deal with, and this is a great way to process or communicate or empathize. I mean, you know, it runs deep. What's really cool is, like Scott was trying to say, we're not trying to give this is what the song means, because you said it. When you hear it, it means something to you, and that's more important than what, you know what I mean? That's another aspect of this that's really powerful and great and important to the community. So, and that's happening here. I mean, this is great.
This whole community the whole time has been ebb and flows, but it's been dynamic the whole time. It doesn't go away. There's something in the water, man.
I think that we've had so many people that have come through that have been, you know, part of the music community, that they inspire others to become part of the music community. And then I don't know, I think that we've developed a culture that continues to inspire others to keep this thing alive, you know, where we have pride in our local music scene. I don't know, Scott, if you wanted to say something like what makes a good music community.
I know I like to think about the 90s, early 90s, you know, where for some reason, there's always been a good music community here. I moved here January 4th in 93, and on White Street on campus, I could just walk to the Blind Pig and watch Honcho or watch Hot Gun. I'll never forget, I was 23, and I was kind of afraid to go into a bar by myself. I didn't know what that meant, you know? And I went in there and I saw some bands. I'm like, I saw Ward, 16 Tons. I didn't even know what was happening, really, to be honest with you. But like, I knew I liked it. I was like, this is where I belong. This is where I need to be. I love this. It really changed my life. It really did.
Champagne is Also a Band podcast is proud to support Exile on Main Street. Exile on Main Street, located in the old train station building at 100 North Chestnut Street in downtown Champaign, has been helping to build record collections since 2004. Carrying a wide array of new and used LPs, CDs, and video games. Exile on Main Street has something for just about any music enthusiast and old-school gaming devotee. Exile also hosts regular free live music shows on its stage, so be sure to check out their Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages for the up-to-date details on the next upcoming event. Open 7 days a week, they can be reached by phone at 217-398-MAIN. That's 217-398-6246. Welcome back. So, Don, what is your favorite non-musical thing or things?
Yeah, I would say it jumps right to spending time with my wife. We love food and traveling, so that's probably the next most fun, interesting thing to do. We love to try different foods, and, she's a really good cook too, but we love to get out there and try things. We have a whole list of restaurants in Chicago to try, We've got a couple kids that live up there now, and so we have perfect reasons to go up there and hang out with them and try some fun food and hang out together. So that's what we love doing these days.
So where's your next big travel adventure?
We're going to New York. Actually, I have never been.
Okay, so that's big.
I've always wanted to be
that's
there.
That's big. So Manhattan, Brooklyn, which borough?
Is it the lower
East Side?
Downtown? I think it's Lower East Side is where we're going to stay. And we're going to do, not a long trip, like 4 days, I think. But yeah, starting in the Lower East Side in Chinatown, and we found a cool place.
Scott, what's your favorite non-musical thing or things?
To be honest with you, one of my favorite things to do is to stare out the window.
Any particular window or just any window?
Any window.
Yeah.
I just like to look at things and just think about things. And I was one of those kids, man, in grade school where the teacher would go, "Hey, Scott, what are you doing?" Staring out the window. Oh, also too, I love biking. I love cooking. I mean, I love doing both of those. But basically, I stare out the window a lot. I come up with a lot of ideas that way.
Well, Scott, Don, thank you for coming all the way out here and coming on the show. And I mean, literally bearing your souls. And I appreciate that so, so much. And, telling me about your song, This Isn't Real, off of your recently released album, Everending, telling me the history of T-Vic. And I've really enjoyed hearing your stories and telling me all about falling in love with the music scene. And I really appreciate that. So thank you for coming out here and being on the show.
Thank you, Sven.
Thank you.
Seriously. I mean, we appreciate what you're doing too. We thank the venues earlier, but you're a part of this too. And this is it's a part of the community. It's another aspect of what's going on. We really appreciate you being a constant. Okay, because we can relate to that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're the real deal.
You're one of the constants in the community. So thank you. We have a lot of gratitude for you allowing us to be part of this.
Thank you for listening to Champagne is Also a Band podcast. This is Scott Kimble.
And I'm Don King.
Reminding you, great music is out there. Go find it where you live.
Didn't that just fly right on by? Maybe.
No.
That's a wrap.
Champagne is also a band.
You almost have an NPR voice. It's so good.
Studio South Speaker on the inside.
Hey, Scott, What are you doing?